All right, what's up, everyone? I was watching the news this morning. I got up probably about 5:30, getting ready for work. And every morning, I try to watch the news, even before this whole pandemic shit started. So, I'm watching the news this morning, and the more and more I watch the news and listen to, some of the things that were being said as far as this pandemic is concerned, the madder I got. And the reason why that is because, I'm looking at what's going on, not just in the world, but in this country. And I'm looking at it from the point of view of this shit could have been avoided. And the reason why I say that is because of this. For the most part, this virus got over here because of people who were outside of the country that were coming back into the country. And the other side to that whole scenario, there are a lot of people saying that the shit was already over here, which I think it was as well. But as far as how it spread and whether if it was over here, those of us who fell ill or sick in the months of November, December, and January, and I was one of those individuals, we didn't die from the shit, if that is indeed what we had, or we had a weaker strain of what is considered to be the coronavirus. But with the strain that is over here now, if indeed it is two different strains, and if indeed it was the coronavirus that everyone was experiencing during those months that I just mentioned, that shit is killing people. Now, there are not a whole lot of people that are dying from this shit, but nonetheless, they are dying. This so-called virus is supposedly highly contagious. They really don't know how this shit is being transmitted. And that's a whole nother story in itself. But the thing that pissed me off is that those people who were on these cruise ships, and even up to this day, they're still showing footage of people being on cruise ships. I don't know how long they've been out to sea. I don't know if these people just took a cruise and whatnot. But my thing was, why the fuck would you even be on a cruise in the first place with all of this shit that's been going on? Now, mind you, when this shit started out in Wuhan, everybody was waiting to see what was going to happen before they took action. And that's understandable, because if it doesn't, make it towards you, you really don't see the need or feel that there's a need to, do anything about that. And, that's just the way some people think. Me, myself, I don't plan for everything, but a lot of things I do plan for, just in case if it does happen, then I'm prepared. And if it doesn't happen, then, oh, well, I'm still prepared if the shit comes later on down the line. But instead of them letting these people dock and then come back onto the mainland, why didn't you just leave those people on the fucking ships? And instead of doing what you've done as far as setting up these triages or these makeshift hospitals that you've set up, why come you didn't do that on the fucking cruise ship? Why not send the personnel on those damn ships and set up those facilities on the damn ship? That way, this shit could have stayed off the mainland, so to speak. And what you're seeing going on in this country now probably wouldn't have went on, or at least not to the degree that it has. Now, there's all kind of speculations behind how this virus, got started. Some people are talking about, it's based on 5G. Some people are saying that, it's the government. Whatever route that you want to go, some people are looking at it like, it's like one of those freak of nature things where, sometimes animal viruses can cross over and affect humans. But you're hearing all kind of goddamn stories. So for the most part, people really don't know what to believe. I'm leaning more towards, I think this shit goes up into the higher levels of what we would call rulership. I think that the government has something to do with it, whether it was the United States government, whether it was dealing with China, or it was both of these motherfuckers, or it could have been another government. I don't think that this so-called virus just popped up and started doing the shit that it did. Same thing can be said about AIDS. And with the evidence that has come out about that shit was not some freak of nature, man. That was some shit that was made in a fucking laboratory. It was used as a biological weapon. And I'm looking at this as being the same thing. But whatever way you want to look at it, you know, that's up to you. Only thing I can say is do your fucking research. And, you know, as I've been told, you know, anything that is supposed to be qualified, it is best done by doing your own research and you formulate your own conclusions. But nonetheless, I'm pissed off, man, because I can't live my life the way I want to live my life. A lot of people cannot enjoy the things that they used to enjoy. Hell, you can't even enjoy family members now because you have to be wary of who you're coming in contact with, regardless of whether they're friends or family or not. This shit has disrupted our lives to the point where I don't think shit will ever be the same. Even when they say that they're going to restrict some of the restrictions that they have, it's still going to be in the back of your mind when you go out. If you see someone sneeze or cough, or even if they don't look right to you, this shit is going to be in the back of your mind like fucking AIDS and HIV. Any motherfucker that's having sex, you're strapping up. Why? Because you don't know what the next person has. Even if you're married, my advice to you is, yo, get a goddamn condom, because people are creatures of habit for the most part. That doesn't mean that they're going to always do what's right. That doesn't mean that you're going to always do what's right in a relationship. And it's the same thing with this fucking virus. There are going to be people who are going to be, you know, how can I say it? They're going to do things, man, and not even think about what the fuck they're doing. You're going to see people wiping their fucking nose if they have colds, wiping their lips, putting their hands on shit. People are going to get relaxed because they're thinking that this shit is just going to die out and, you know, just smooth out. I don't think it's going to be that way. Viruses do not die. If they did, then during the fall and winter months, motherfuckers would not get colds. They would not get flus. A cold and a flu, for the most part, dies down during humid and hot months. And then that shit picks back up during the fall and the winter. So it's going to be the same thing with this fucking virus. It may die down during the summer. Right now, the data is too early to tell. It may die down, but if it does, then what happens when the fall and the winter rolls back around? What if it comes back worse than what it was? So those numbers that they are projecting, like the United States is projecting that there will be in the next 2 weeks, 100 to 200,000 deaths. Personally, I don't believe that shit, because I'm like, where it started out at, and then it ended up going to Europe. And then when you look at all of the places that have been affected worldwide, the deaths that have occurred is not even over 50,000. So now you're going to tell me that here in the United States, on this continent, in this country, that they're going to be 100 to 200,000 deaths? Well, what the fuck kind of coronavirus do we have over here where that's going to happen? To the point where people are dying like flies, to the point where in 2 weeks' time, we're going to amass 100,000, between 100,000 and 200,000 deaths. But that shit didn't even occur around the country. I mean, around the planet. That makes no fucking sense to me. It's the same fucking virus, or it's supposed to be the same virus. And it kills in the same manner, the same fashion, and in the same rate. The only way that shit could possibly happen is if motherfuckers just don't pay attention to any of the goddamn restrictions, and you got people that are just out there in droves infecting people. But for the most part, a lot of people are adhering to the restrictions that this country has set forth. Or at least I know here in the county that I'm living in, I don't see a lot of people out on the road. Do you have some people that are out there? Yeah. You have some people that are out there because they have what is called, these essential jobs. And then you have some people that are out there that, their jobs are not essential. You have some people that are out there that are doing their daily deeds as far as running errands and going to pick up necessities and whatnot, as far as their households and families are concerned. But for the most part, I think people are adhering to certain protocols. But again, when you look at the statistics that they show every day, whether it's in this country and around the world, the death toll is not that high when you consider that this is supposed to be a pandemic. It is not like that. That's where the fear and all that shit comes in at, to where motherfuckers start panicking they panic because the news is constantly showing you shit of people dying. People are dying. People are sick. But they don't really talk about, or they don't really mention it in the way that they mention, with the type of veracity that they have behind people dying. Well, say the same shit about the people that are living, that are surviving this shit. Because everyone is not dying. And then even with the people who do come down with the so-called coronavirus, some of them have mild symptoms. Some of them are not dealing with the more severe symptoms that this disease, or not disease, but virus can cause. But that's not being put out there. So I'm pissed off about all of this shit, man, because it could have been avoided, or at least to a certain degree. But because people are going to be people and they're going to do the things that they're going to do, this is why we have shit the way that it is. And now you got people who are going to be without jobs. You have people that are going to lose their homes, might even lose their cars. You've already lost, your way of life, so to speak, for these past couple of weeks or past couple of months. And we don't know if there's even an end in sight. There really is no concrete treatment for this shit. You have different people that are posting things, whether that is on social media or that is on the news, as far as what they're doing to try to combat this shit. But right now, there is nothing out there. And the only thing you can do is, based off of shit that you either heard or you did research on, and you hope like hell that shit works. Even with the whole social distancing thing, people wearing masks and gloves and shit, that is not concrete. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. Protect yourself in the best ways possible. None of that shit is concrete because the data is not concrete. Because even with the data that they've put out, they told you that this shit could stay on certain surfaces for up to like 72 hours. Then come back, they have the damn cruise ship. The name of the cruise ship that I was telling you guys about was called the I done forgot the damn name again. But anyway, fuck it. We found out that this shit has survived up to 17 goddamn days. But when I went on WPDE's Facebook page, as far as how long the shit would survive, it had 72 hours. So again, they're constantly learning shit as they go. And right now, there's no end in sight. So with what we're dealing with now, as far as life, this is the fucking norm. And even when they tell people that it's okay to go back outside, I still think this is going to be the norm, because you're going to be paranoid. You're going to be cautious. You're going to look at things totally different from the way that you used to look at things because of this virus. And here's the worst part about it. This may not be the last time. There may be something else that is coming down the pipe that may be worse than the so-called coronavirus. And this is where I have a problem with my people. We're always the last to do shit. And I've seen people that have posted, things on social media that is dealing with, this TikTok thing. And, people are trying to show, people that, okay, I'm handling this thing in a manner to where I'm not letting it get me down mentally. I get it. I understand that. I understand that, in the midst of danger or sadness, you have to have some laughter. I understand that. But on the flip side of that, That's always been our problem. We've been laughing too goddamn much to the point where now we got to suffer with some people in this country that we shouldn't be suffering with. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at the TV, you see these commercials now that they're airing where they're trying to keep the morale up, where they're saying, we're all in this together. No, fuck, we not. We're not in this together. We weren't together before the goddamn pandemic hit. So why the hell should we be together now? Now everybody wants to sing Kumbaya and we need to fucking get along and shit. This is not no fucking Rodney King shit. We weren't getting along before the damn pandemic started, but now we need to get along. And that goes back to what I was saying about the hypocrisy that I put in the other video that I put out as far as the governments around the world and the hypocrisy in people. Now y'all want to fucking get along because now we got to work together to stop something that is killing every fucking body. It may be doing it at a slow pace, but it's fucking motherfuckers up. But now color doesn't matter. Being prejudiced and acting in a discriminatory way based off of race, that shit really don't matter now. Although you got some motherfuckers out there that are still promoting that shit. Like now, and I don't know if it's true, you got the neo-Nazis that are saying they're going to weaponize the coronavirus. Or if you got it, use that shit to infect other people, other people of color, especially black folks. So even though you got one segment of the society that is like, you know, we ain't dealing with that shit right now, you still got the other segment that, you know, they're going to stay on course, man. We're the only ones that don't fucking stay on course. All of these people that have warned us and warned us and warned us. Everybody loves Malcolm, but you motherfuckers didn't do what Malcolm said. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Stokely Carmichael, the New Black Panther Party, the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. All of these other organizations that's been telling us, accept your own and be yourself. Organize, pull together, pool your resources together, build your own shit. And we laughed and we joked and we played and we partied. We went out. We did all of the stupid shit that we shouldn't have been doing at that particular time. Now we're in a goddamn predicament to where all of those words that these people have told us over the years, that shit is fact now. But now you're stuck. You're stuck in Egypt and there's no way to get out. Now the plagues are coming. Now we gonna have to suffer with the motherfucker that has always made us suffer. Because chances are, these are the same people who were asking you to sing Kumbaya now and come together. These are the same motherfuckers that probably put this shit out. And so now, your innocent child, mother, father, relatives have to suffer and die because of greedy ass motherfuckers that are hungry for power. Because that's what we're dealing with. And that's what all of these governments around the world, all of them. It's just that some are worse than others. But this is my rant for today. I'm pretty much done with this shit because I had already said, you know, it's going to probably be a while before I go to fuck back on Facebook. Because I'm just tired of seeing the bullshit, man. The virus is, the plague is here. The pandemic is here. My question to some of y'all is this. What now? Because you can't stay in the house forever. You can't do that forever. You're protecting yourself, but you cannot stay in the fucking house forever. So now what? You got these people who are supposed to be medical professions. Some of them are like, yo, I didn't sign up for this shit. Some of them are quitting. Some of them are dying. So then what happens then when the people that you expect to help you in a medical emergency or situation, what happens when they're not there? Because we don't have a medical system. I tried to start one up. Even though I'm not a medical doctor, having went to school for this shit, I've been studying this shit for 10 years. I'm still a novice at it. But I was trying to pull people together and also teach people to come together so we could start our own shit up. And I'm even thinking about going back to school if shit ever gets back on track. to get my degree in biology or something that is dealing within that field. But I've been studying for 10 years. But that was not my first introduction to science. My first introduction to science was in grade school, but on a greater degree, it was with my dad. See, a lot of people don't know my dad was a lab tech. My dad worked at Southeastern Hospital here in Lumberton. My dad worked at Burroughs Wellcome in Durham. I think that was a pharmaceutical company. I don't know if it's still called by that name. My dad also worked in clinics in Clinton. And I used to go with my dad as a kid and sit in his lab and watch my dad work. Them same motherfuckers that you see on TV in the white lab coats and with the microscopes and shit like that. I grew up seeing that. I grew up seeing that shit. I used to sneak in the attic and read my dad's medical books, even though I didn't understand what that shit was saying until I got older and I started reading them. But this is my introduction to all of this shit. So I'm not a motherfucker that just jumped into this shit. And I'm planning on pursuing it even more because I don't want to just be a novice. I want to be one of those people that you can come to that can show you how to get from point A to point B. And for the most part, with the little bit of stuff that I have learned, I have been doing that. Now, whether it works for you or not, that depends on how you take the shit and how you use it. But everything that I've given you guys, I've tried it, whether it's supplements or certain foods that I eat. I actually ate those foods and I used those supplements. So I'm not going to tell you to take some shit or eat some shit that I've never tried. And you guys already know I have an illness. It doesn't bother me like it does a whole lot of other people, but I'm one of those people who will probably be more susceptible to this fucking virus. But I have no intentions of going the fuck out. I have no intentions of letting this shit kill me. And if I do come down with it, you can best believe I'm going to take everything that I know to beat this shit. But I think I already had it. I think during that time, during the months of November, December, and January, when everybody was talking about, being sick and that shit lasted for at least 14 days, like they saying that this shit does, the same symptoms that they were talking about, a lot of people had those fucking symptoms. I just talked to a friend of mine now that lives in Florida where she had the dry cough and all of this shit. She even had to go to the hospital. I never had to go to the hospital. Only symptom that I had as far as the symptoms that they talk about as far as this virus was the fatigue. And when I was going to the gym, I knew my strength wasn't there, but I didn't have the dry cough. Did I have some mucus that formed? Yeah, but I was able to get that shit out. And I fought it, but it took me 2 weeks to get rid of that shit. I've never had to deal with anything like that a day in my life. Whether I was diagnosed with this illness or not, never had to deal. I never had a cold or flu or any of that shit to affect me like this shit did. And it took me almost 14 days to get rid of this shit because when I first got sick, it was on a Sunday. By Wednesday, I was doing my herbs and whatnot. I was feeling good. I was out practicing with the gun club that Saturday. Sunday, the next day, I got sick. Wednesday, I was doing a whole lot better. Had a maneuver I had to do with the Black Panther Party that Saturday. That Sunday, the shit jumped back on me. And it was worse this time. Worse to the point where I had to take a day off from work. And I stayed at home, did my herbs, did my teas. I pulled out my notebooks and I'm researching the shit that I already researched to get myself back on track. And it took me about 14 days to do that shit. So in my opinion, I think the shit was already here. In my opinion, and I may be wrong, this may sound like some conspiracy theorist shit, and it is my theory, but I'm not conspiring with anyone. My theory is that this shit was here, but it was a weaker version of it. And just for the sake of argument, if this shit is man-made, then the version that we had was not the version that hit in Wuhan. That shit was tweaked. They dropped it off over there and it fucked them people up and then it came back over here. That's my story. That's my story and that's what I'm gonna stick with. And I may be wrong. But until someone can prove otherwise, Because like I said, there are people on both sides of the fence that think that this shit is either it occurred naturally or it occurred naturally and somebody tweaked this shit. And to take matters even further, and people are saying, well, that's not the same COVID or the same coronavirus that is affecting the population. But my thing is this: why would you even have it? Now, what am I talking about? The United States government has a patent on the coronavirus. You can Google that shit and find the fucking patent number. Europe has a patent on the fucking coronavirus vaccine. You can Google that shit and find that as well. And I think in 2004, that's when the United States either applied for the patent for the coronavirus or they got approved for it. In 2009, and you can look all this shit up on your own. I may be a little off with the dates, but in 2009, Europe applied for a patent for the coronavirus vaccine. Guess when they got approved for this shit? In November of 2019. And this is round about the time when all this shit was popping off. So all of these things may be coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences. And maybe these things are not related. Maybe they're not connected. But somewhere down the line, if you begin to follow the fucking money, as they always say, because this shit is going to be about money, then usually you can find the culprits in the things that are going on that may be shady or underhanded. And I think the more and more people do research and begin to connect the dots, they will find that this shit was not some freak of nature, that this was some shit that someone orchestrated, someone built or concocted in a fucking lab, then they put it out to the public. Because remember, they're still trying to depopulate the fucking planet. And I'm going to end on this note. You have the amount of people that are in China is like 4 times greater, I think, than the people that are in the United States alone. But this is my thing when it comes to depopulation. Whenever they talk about depopulation, they always refer that shit to people of color. Never the Caucasians, even though they'll take out a few of theirs just to achieve the goal. But it's always talking about people of color. But they use certain type of terminology so that you don't think that they're talking about people of color or one specific group of people. And then they'll tell you that, you know, the resources on the planet are getting scarce. No, fuck, they aren't. And there's no way the goddamn planet could be overpopulated. Why? People are born every day and motherfuckers die every fucking day. Even though people are living longer, they still die. Y'all act like these motherfuckers is living goddamn 500 to 1,000 years. No one is living like that right now. Now, even the people in the goddamn blue zones that live to be up to 150, close to 200 years, their health is, according to science right now in the data, is better than most motherfuckers around the planet. Those people who live in what are called the blue zones. But no one is living that fucking long. People die every fucking day. So where the hell y'all getting this shit from that the goddamn planet is overpopulated and the resources are being used up? If they're being used up, it's because you greedy motherfuckers are out there using shit up. That's greed. You only take what the fuck you need. Just like with motherfuckers with these goddamn grocery stores and shit. The grocery stores would be all right. These truckers wouldn't have to work overtime, triple time, double time to keep shit stocked if you motherfuckers would only take what the fuck you need. But y'all want to be greedy. Y'all buying up all the goddamn toilet tissue. Half of you motherfuckers don't even use the bathroom like that. Some of you eat all this fucked up food that have you clogged up and you use the bathroom once out of the week. Once every 2 weeks. Some of you use the goddamn bathroom once a month. And those are facts. But that's the way this shit is. If you only take what the fuck you need, there will be plenty to go around. But because of greed, that's the reason why shit gets used up. But whether it's greed or not, that shit still doesn't have nothing to do with the population. Because people are born and they die every fucking day. And on that note, I'm going to end this conversation. But hey, do your research, man. And once you do your research and you start uncovering the goddamn stones and start finding all of the bullshit that are under the fucking rocks, things will begin to make more sense. But, you know, that's my rant for today. Probably won't be back on Facebook for, you know, for a minute. Maybe a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Hell, it might even be a couple of months. But I need a break from this shit. I might still monitor shit, but I doubt if I'll be posting anything anytime soon. But hey, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and we gonna get through this shit, man. Other than that, that's all I got. Peace and blessings. Salute you. I'm out.